Hi, so day 7. Yeah, so this is going to be a designy episode, I think. Um, I've, yeah, been working a bit on the redesign of my app, and yeah, here's what I'm kind of sitting at the moment. Uh, yeah, you can see that there's you know, a much more minimal look to the buttons with just a plain start, no shadow, and yeah, no shadow up here either. Um, and then, yeah, if you click on the menu, it obviously has the minimal looking thing there. And then, yeah, when you start, it fills the button in like this. You can see with the pause button. I also was just messing around with putting the time in here so that you can see where, when it pauses, that the time kind of shrinks into the background, and fades a bit, fades a bit, in terms of opacity, to make it seem like it's um, I don't know, paused, and then yeah, when it resumes, then it would start counting down again, and then yeah, same with the cancel button, it fills in the same way, and yeah, that's where I'm kind of sitting at the moment, and yeah, this is a fully functioning mock-up, which yeah, pretty happy with this. Well, I wouldn't say fully functioning, but actually, partially functioning mock-up. I'm just going to turn my lights on, seeing as I should have done that probably before, but then I just realised now that they're not on. That didn't make much of a difference. Oh well, that's fine. Let's just turn this one a bit sideways until it lights up my face. Yeah, there we go. Now I look like I've got some colour in my face. That's good. So, yeah, anyway, this is my mock-up just made in Keynote, which is basically like PowerPoint. Um, the microphone's kind of casting a shadow. That's fine. um, yeah, so yeah, and then you just put little links on each of the buttons to go to whatever slide they need to go to, and there's just a fade transition. So yeah, you can see when you press this and it just kind of fades in the actual app, it would slide up from the bottom like it's been doing in the current prototype that we're working on. But that's a bit tricky to do just using transitions, because if I made the transition be a slide up from this slide, then it would also slide up when it was trying to show the start highlighted. But yeah, so the one thing that I was thinking was perhaps switching the styles of the activated and non-activated. Um, I'm not sure about doing this, but I kind of need to try it. So I'm gonna do a little time lapse of just switching the styles out, and then yeah, and then I'll see how that looks. And I guess that's the whole idea of prototyping, is you get an idea of what works and what doesn't. So yeah, time lapse. Okay, and we're back. I think I switched them all out correctly. Um, yeah, so obviously this one's still the same, but yeah, so you can see the red and then the white background as the default, and then when you click it, it kind of empties like that. So with the pause button, it's kind of, yeah, empties out when it's clicked, and then fills back in when it's in a non-clicked state. So yeah, that's I don't know how I feel about it. It seems a bit backwards, but that might just be because I just had it the other way around just before. So, of course it would seem backwards compared to, what I just had it in. But I don't know, it does look simpler, I think, because there isn't a line. You can see when there's the gap in there, that's, adding a whole extra line. It's one switch to that, then another switch back to red, then another switch back to white. Whereas when it's like this, it's just switch to white, switch to red again, which is obviously simpler. But yeah, I'm just not quite sold on it. I think, yeah, I think I might prefer it the other way around. Um, Yeah, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to duplicate that all. And then, oh, actually, I'm not going to duplicate it. I'm going to copy it and then undo all of the changes until they go back to where they were. There you go. And then I'll paste it. Can I? Oh no, it won't let me paste it. Oh well, that's fine. I don't think that other style was better. I think that yeah. Well, now I'm looking at this, and now this looks different because it's switched again. But that looks more activated, doesn't it? Don't you reckon? Having it filled in, that looks more like it's activated, which is what you want. Whereas that looks less like it's activated. Yeah, I think this is the better option. And yeah, either way, the other interface things will kind of cue you as to whether it's activated or not, because you can tell that the pause is activated when this number's shrunk. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Yeah, so that's some nice redesigning. Yeah, and I just do think it looks a lot more minimal than it did, having all the shadows and all of that. I do still like the gradient, even though that's not flat, because I think that that's the kind of, yeah, that's another thing that is kind of modern, is having a gradient. When you look at any sort of icons and app icons and all of that, they all kind of have gradients and a lot of app backgrounds. Yeah, I think gradients are in, but shadows are out. So that's kind of what we're thinking there. I kind of want to figure out some sort of. Let's zoom in on this. Yeah. Kind of want to figure out what this would look like when it, because obviously if you could have a line version of this, but the line around the edge would be very thin because it needs to have, these orange dots would be white, then there'd be a line around the edge, and then there'd be all orange in the background here, and yeah, the white dots. But that would be a very thin line, so I don't know if that would actually work. So it might be better just to, yeah, I don't know how that one would look activated, how we'd do that. Maybe just filling in the white dots, but that would look kind of silly because then it loses the whole icon part of it. Or just inverting it, so having just a complete orange background and just the white dots when you click on it. I don't know about that. That seems a bit interesting. So, yeah. It's hard to see when it's got the link thing over it. But if I just duplicate this, and I'll make that link to slide 2. So let's just try what that would look like if it was just inverted. So click that. Oh, actually that's grouped, isn't it? Ungroup. Delete that. Click on these orange dots and format. Oh, I need to click on them, get all of them selected. Style, make them white. So that's the inverse there. So that would be clicking on that. Oh, why did that not work? So going to slide. There we go. Now that should work. Yeah, and then I need to put an auto transition on this automatically after 0.10. Yeah, no, I don't really like that. It doesn't look quite right, does it? It just looks kind of weird. So, I don't know. I'm going to play around with a few options there, and I'll come back to you when I've kind of got one that I kind of like. Let's see. I don't know. This is kind of tricky. I think the best one is the one that I've got currently, the best one I've come up with, which is just fading it out a little bit. You can see like that. which is kind of similar to just how buttons normally work on iOS. So if I bring up the simulator here, just open up settings or something. Yeah, well, these menus, they actually go darker, so that's interesting. But you can see the buttons here, they just kind of fade out. And yeah, seeing as this is a button, that might make more sense. It's not a sub menu, although it does link to a sub menu. So maybe I'll try darkening it. Let's try that. So if we've got, I'll just undo it until it's, actually no, because I did a whole lot of animation stuff. Yeah. So let's just format, get in there. This one, bring the opacity back up. Maybe it needs to be, I don't know how dark it goes. Let's just try that for now. So click. Now that doesn't look right because it's not orange enough. It's kind of just blue. It looks blue in comparison anyway. So if I just go into the color picker here, I guess, and then go towards the orange sort of side of the spectrum. There. It's kind of a darker orangey grey. It's to be kind of around there, I guess. So yeah, in the app I'd probably do that by just making it a bit more transparent. So that's okay. I can see that working. Maybe if the center bits also got kind of lighter. I don't know, let's just go full white and see. Now, full white's too much, but maybe just a little bit lighter than standard. Actually, I'll do this with saturation, bring that down a bit. Only maybe 50, there we go. So they're going to get a little bit lighter and the outside's going to get a little darker. Now that's a bit complicated, I think. So yeah, maybe just leave them how they are. Yeah, so I don't know. There's a couple of design choices I could make here, but I think that either getting darker or getting more transparent as it, as it is clicked on, is the best option. Yeah, it'd be nice to have it be the same as this button idea, but I just don't know how I can do that on the smaller scale there. So what I could also do is I could just, have a button that says more in it and is just a lot smaller, so I just shrink it right down and make the text really small until it finally shows up in there. I don't think it's going to, it's too small. Let's go arrange, or text actually, layout, text inset 0. Oh, maybe it's just really big. There we go. So yeah, I could do something like that and just have that as a more button, but I don't think that quite works. It kind of looks, yeah, it just kind of looks weird. It's like, why is that one, a smaller version of this other button? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do some redesigning. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so this is okay. And it fits definitely with the rest of the style. It's the same as the other buttons. But there's a couple of problems. You can see this second icon. I'll just take the auto transition off this. Yeah, you can see this second icon here just looks a little bit like the dots are too close to the center. You know what I mean? They kind of look like they're squished together because there's a bit of extra space, especially compared to the previous slide where they've got, they're right there. So yeah, what would need to happen is that the outside border would need to shrink, but then that would look weird because it would be different to the previous one. So if I bring that in, yeah, you can see it shrinks like that, which then, oh, the dots look like they're centered correctly. But yeah. So I'm actually just going to set that one, just add a link back to the previous slide. Perfect. Just so that I can click between them. Yeah, so that's not exactly what I would hope for with a button. It just looks kind of weird. So let's undo that, add that link again. This is a tricky problem, this one. I'm not really sure. I don't know, I feel like there's some optical illusion sort of in play as well, because you can see the dots kind of look like they shrink when they turn into the orange there. I don't know, this is weird. So I'm not sure about that icon look there. I'm just trying to think if there's another symbol I can use to designate, more information. Because, yeah, that symbol just doesn't quite work there. Or it doesn't work with this style. See, yeah, if it was a single dot, right? If we just got rid of those extra dots on both of them, and I'm not saying that this would be a good icon design. I can't even... Oh, that's annoying. For some reason, my trackpad's not doing the zoomy thing, which it should be, but I don't know. Anyway, let's zoom in using that, and yeah, so if that was somehow, oh, that looks a little like a nipple, but that's fine. Yeah, if that was, a good icon for representing more, then that would work perfectly. You can see that really works. But yeah, just having the three dots where they're close to the edge, it kind of just plays with I don't know, it messes with it. So I'm just trying to think if there is another symbol I could use, like something as simple as that to mean menu. But I don't know. This is going to require some thinking. So I'm going to actually just leave that there for the time being. I've got a backup of the other one here, you can see. So I don't have to, I don't have to remake it. I can just leave this here. But, yeah. I don't know. So I'm going to work on turning these buttons into program by actually, changing these classes here. So instead of shadow button, it'll be something else. And yeah, I can probably time lapse that because that's going to be pretty simple. Oh, the light's kind of getting a bit bright here, so I'm going to turn that around to the side. There we go, much better. Oh wow, you can really see the sun's just coming out in the window, and it's kind of messing with the whole lighting in the room. So yeah, I'm gonna do a bit of time lapse of changing these buttons from looking like they do currently. I'll just run that and show you where we're at the moment, and then I'll show you where we'll be at when I've changed them all. And they'll look kind of similar to that prototype, but there'll probably be a couple of differences because, I don't know, prototypes never turn exactly into code. And usually it's an improvement. Usually there's things that make it better. Yeah, so this is where we're at the moment. Yeah, with the shadows, they shrink when you click on them. Well, that one's not appropriately styled, it's transparent for some reason, but yeah, and then that pause resume button just goes back to the exact same style every time. So there's some things to change with all of this, because I'll have to change the behavior of that button, and yeah, get rid of the shrinking, get rid of the shadow, change the color, put a border on. Yeah, I'll be back when I've done that. Okay. Okay, so I'm back and I've done some stuff. There's a couple of inherent flaws in the way the buttons are being handled, which I'm gonna have to sort out. But it does kind of work right now. Um, you can see that when you select the button, it changes, the background color becomes the text color and the background fills in white, which is what you want. And then with the pause button, toggles on and off. It doesn't change the title. It stays as paused. Um, and yeah, so that works. And yeah, I simplified the way the button toggles a lot because I don't know why I didn't think of this, but selected is a property that exists, and you can just set a button to be selected, and then it will, that persists even when you have let go of the button, whereas highlighted only persists while you're holding on the button. As you can see with the other buttons here, when it shows up again. Yeah, so like with that, when I let go of the button, it stays, and with paused, when I let go of the button, yeah, it remains selected, and that's just by setting the selected property. So I do that in the button view controller when it prepares for running or prepares for paused. It sets the pause button to be whatever it needs to be, and the reason I've done that in there rather than in when it's pressed is because I need it to switch to the correct state when the app starts up. So if I launch it here and I set it to be paused, right? And then close the app, and then, well, actually, I'll just do it on here. If I double press, no, okay, I'm just going to swipe up, close that out, and now if I open the app up again, it should, yeah, it stays paused. And if it was just to do with the button pressing, then it wouldn't be able to set it to be selected here based on whether it's running or not. So yeah, so that's why that works the way it does. And then yeah, so the buttons do kind of work as they are. I need to not lean back while I'm talking into the microphone because otherwise you can't hear me properly. But yeah, so the inherent flaw that I was talking about is, and I did notice this before, it's that when the button switches, oh well, actually there's another inherent flaw I've just noticed, but anyway, the main one that I was talking about, when it switches what buttons are being displayed, it just removes them straight from the view, which means that it just flashes. It doesn't just disappear. Whereas you see with this one, when you deselect it, it has the nice animation of it fading back out. And I've got them on slow animations now so that you can see it clearer. But these ones, there's no fading back out animation because as soon as you let go, it switches to the different set of buttons and everything. So that means that I'm gonna have to change how the buttons work um, at this level here. So the main level I've got, the main thing that holds the buttons is this thing called a button view here. And yeah, basically it's just a stack view, horizontal stack view, which means that you can put, I'll just put some buttons in there manually now so you can see it. So you put one button in and it fills the whole thing. You put another button in and it splits them evenly in half. And that's what you can see, that's what was happening in the app, where you've got the start and then it splits these two evenly in half. And it just adds them, and then when it switches from running to paused, or from editing to start to running, then yeah, it just deletes the start button. So it just, if you've got the one start button there, it deletes it, and then it adds the two more. But because it's just deleting it, it doesn't have time for the animation to fade out. So what I'm going to have to do is think of a different way to do that. So you can't just delay when they get deleted, because, and I tried this before, but there's not a way to just delay it, because while it's fading out, right? So if you just have it fading out while the other ones are being faded in, then this thing automatically resizes the buttons to fit in the right thing. So you've got the start button there, and as it starts to fade out, a new button's added, and then the start button suddenly shrinks to half the size while it's still fading out, and then another button's added, which is the cancel button, and then and then it's all of a sudden a third of the size and still fading out, and then it fades out completely, and then is deleted, and then the other two can finish fading in, but they've just jumped size as well, and it looks really not smooth. So yeah, I need a better way to handle how the buttons are added and removed. And I could just change it, instead of being a stack view that automatically resizes them, I could just change it to be a normal view. But the problem with doing that is, the buttons don't automatically resize themselves. So I'd have to write in the code a whole lot of stuff for laying them out and the auto layout constraints, which then gets kind of complicated there as well. So I've got a couple of options of what I can actually do. I can have a different button view for the one that's fading out and the one that's fading in, and just put them on top of each other, so that while one button's fading out, a new button view is added on top that the new buttons are added to, and then that stays there, and then when it's switching back, it switches to the other button view. Or I can do all the auto layout constraints, or I can actually physically create the different button views here, rather than creating the buttons completely in code as I am at the moment. There's probably many other options. There always is with programming, but they're the options that I'm considering at the moment. I think the best option might be to have a different button view for the one that's fading out and the one that's fading in, and then and every time it's switching between different buttons, it'll just create that new temporary button view to put the fading out button into while it fades out, and then the other ones can be safely added to the main button view. That's a bit complicated, so I'm gonna have to actually spend quite a bit of time thinking about that, and figuring out how to actually make that work smoothly. Also, the other problem is I don't know if that animation would even be that smooth, because you'd still have the buttons on top of each other. What I would like ideally is somehow for this start button to split down the middle, and so you've got one button here, and then it splits down the middle and turns into two, because that would look really cool, But that's, I don't even know where I'd start to, how I'd start going about that. Or maybe I do. If I had just a background behind them. But that would be really complicated as far as having the outlines. Yeah, no, that's not going to work either. That's not going to be any easier than what I'm thinking of. I don't know. This is going to take a bit of trial and error and pondering to figure out how to actually make that work. But yeah, I guess that would be the ideal, would be if they did split, and there's no reason that I shouldn't try and make it, the ideal, rather than just doing something that's, okay. That's kind of my philosophy, I guess. Yeah, so I'm going to try and figure out how to do that. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be a very interesting time lapse, because it's probably just going to be a lot of me sitting like this and just thinking, and that's not going to look very interesting for a video. So I'm going to cut the video here and come back when I've actually figured out how to do it, and maybe I'll time lapse actually doing it, or maybe that process won't be that interesting either, so I'll just come back when it's completely done. I don't know, you'll find out. I'll find out. Okay, bye. Okay, so I've done quite a bit of work. I'm not finished the design. I'll show you where I'm up to. First of all, there's some nice new colors. I just needed to change up the background a bit. But yeah, I'm not fully happy with this yet, but I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out a design that I am happy with. But yeah, so this is what we've got at the moment. If you click on it and hold it down, it's kind of grayed out a bit like that, and then when you let it go, it changes. So you can see here I've got with the pause button, I set up the thing to make the view shrink down just so that I would know when this pause was activated or not. Yeah, you can see it's really subtle at the moment. I need to have some bigger distinction for when it's paused and when it's not. It is slightly more grey than this one, but yeah, it's not really clear enough. Yeah, so anyway, that's where we're up to at the moment. This one's got the same shading on it, even though it shouldn't have like the square color thing. But that's fine. So yeah, I just need to keep working on that. But I'll show you quickly. I've made a whole lot of files trying to figure out what I was doing. So back when I was still looking at this style, with the border around the edge, I came up with this idea. Oh well, I was trying to figure out what the animation would look like. And you can kind of see it's a pretty smooth animation, but obviously it would be a bit faster in the actual thing, but there's limits to how you can do how fast you can make the keyframes go inside of oh gosh, I'm tired. Inside of Keynote, because basically I made this animation just by going through each slide and changing the frames, changing all the stuff in each slide, each frame. But yeah, you set the duration of each slide to be 0 seconds and to start the transition automatically, so it plays through them as soon as they open. It just plays through the thing, but it can only go so fast, so that's why it's slow in here. Yeah, and I do like that, and I do like the idea of having those bordered buttons, but the one thing that just doesn't quite work with them, and this is why I've changed the design idea on that, is with buttons, and I just didn't even think about this, because it seems okay. So if I open up this one again, you can see, oh, I don't know why I made it full screen. What I need to do is start it. yeah, you can see it just toggles between the two. But what you actually need is some kind of feedback that you're holding down on the button. And obviously that doesn't make a difference in this, slideshow setting, because there isn't really a holding down option. And then, when you're holding it down, it's just waiting for you to lift up before it can do anything. So there's no, you can't make it animate just by pressing the mouse down or just by lifting the mouse up. So I didn't really think about that. But then when I tried to implement it, it was just a problem. It felt like there was no kind of feedback for when you touch the button. You were waiting for when you let go, and then it would change to the other state. And then, there is quite a... Oh, that just crashed. Oh, well. Don't need it anymore. Yeah, there's quite a difference between the, just having the border and then also having the full filled in thing. So transitioning between that and going back to it just looked a bit, I don't know, too intense. Yeah, so then, what else is there? This one. This one is the kind of idea that I came up with that I'm using at the moment. Although I'm using it inverted at the moment, but I don't know if I will continue to do that. But I'm going to make these all back to just dissolve 0.10. Cool. So you can see that it has that animation where it goes darker when you're holding on it, and then it changes. And I only did it for the resume button in this little example. But I think that just makes it feel a lot more interactive. And I do think that this design actually still looks pretty minimal, if not more minimal than the bordered design. So I'm pretty happy with that as well, actually. Then the one thing is that button now obviously stands out a lot more than this button, even though, I guess that kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's a lot. And then when you've just got these buttons kind of blend into the background, which they kind of need they do need to stand out, because they're the controls of the app. So yeah, they really do need to actually have some place in the hierarchy. But basically for now, that's my best design so far, and I'm just going to keep prototyping things and coming up with ideas and making more of these PowerPoints and and trying them out in the actual app setting. But so that's where we're up to so far. I really like this background gradient. So that's something, at least. Yeah, so anyway, I've done a lot here. And also, this is kind of a note for myself, because I was trying to do complicated stuff with the pausing and having a specific class for a pause resume button and using a toggle variable and everything. But you actually don't need to do that, because that's the whole point of this this variable here that is selected. It is the toggle thing, and it can have specific appearances set with it. So you can go set title color, for example, UI color dot green. That needs to be capital. UI color dot green. And then you can go for dot selected. So that means that when it's selected, the title color will now be green, and you don't have to have a specific function to set it to green every time it toggles on. It just will be green every time it's selected, and you can see that there. And so that means that I don't have to have a separate class for the pause resume button. It's kind of a thing that's built in. And the way I realized that was I was just playing around in the view controller with the view controller stuff here, and yeah, I ended up looking at one of these. Yeah, the selected one. I turned that on and I was like, hey, that kind of looks exactly like what I want. You know, where the text is cut out and the background is filled, and yeah. And so that was a thing all along that I just didn't know about. But that's why I'm doing all this playing around and stuff, because you know, that's how you learn these things. So yeah. Um is there anything else interesting to say? Oh, I'm really tired. Sorry about the low energy end to the video, jeez. But anyway, I have had a productive day and I've been working like non-stop, so that's like, I don't know, 12 hours. So yeah. it's been a good day for working actually. So yeah, even though I'm low energy, I'm not low spirits. Yeah, anyway, so hopefully I'll get some time to work tomorrow as well, and hopefully I'll have some kind of brainwave about what the design for the buttons should be, because yeah, I don't know, sometimes I'll just be whatever, just sitting there thinking, go, oh hey, you know what, that would work perfectly, but of course I can't just do that on command, because that would be just too easy if I could just go, oh hey, this is exactly what I want. No, so that just has to happen randomly, and hopefully it will. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for this video. Done some designing and a little bit of programming stuff. I think it's been a pretty well-rounded video. Yeah, I really like that green highlight. I think that's or green selected. I think that's great. I'm gonna keep that in the app for sure. Yeah. Okay. Bye.